Blake Shelton says he and Adam Levine originally thought The Voice was pretty ridiculous. During a recent interview with Pop Sugar, Blake Shelton admitted to initially finding the concept of NBC's The Voice pretty ridiculous. "I can't speak for anybody else. Well, I'll speak for Adam Levine. We both kinda thought the show was pretty ridiculous," he said. "You know, here's these red chairs that look like something from Star Trek, and our back is to the artist, and you hit this button, and it just felt very game showy to us. But at the same time, I think both of us needed a job. So it was like, hell yeah, Christina Aguilera is doing it. I'll do it." Shelton believes that his cynicism about the show fed the humor that's always been part of its appeal, from the country music star's jokes with his Maroon 5 frontman, buddy, to his current rapport with Kelly Clarkson. That's where all the joking kinda started from, and jabbing each other and making fun of each other. "That's kinda how that ball got rolling," he said. "I don't know that the show was ever meant to be as funny as it is." Then you add CeeLo Green into the mix, who is just the funniest guy in the world anyway to be around. It was just this thing that happened. Read more. Blake Shelton says he and Gwen Stefani hope their upcoming wedding happens this summer. Shelton's met a lot of friends on the show, and the series positioned him to become involved with someone even more special. Were it not for The Voice, Ellen DeGeneres, maid of honor, and Miley Cyrus, wedding singer, might not be part of Shelton and former judge Gwen Stefani's upcoming exchange of nuptials. When this show ends someday, or they fire me, or whatever happens, I'll look back at that always and go, my God, I sat in a chair next to Snoop Dogg. Who would have ever thought that I would get to do something like that? Those are cool moments for me, and I've got a long list of them. To your point, I've been here for 20 seasons. I don't know how the show has evolved. I just know it's been awesome to be a part of it. When The Voice first premiered on NBC in April 2011, no one could have predicted the massive success the singing competition would achieve, let alone its 23-season run and the number of chart-topping artists it would produce. However, as Blake Shelton recently revealed, he and his fellow coach Adam Levine weren't exactly convinced the show would be a hit when they initially signed on. In fact, according to Shelton, they both thought The Voice was pretty ridiculous in its early stages. Shelton and Levine were part of the original 4 coaches on The Voice, alongside Christina Aguilera and CeeLo Green. They were tasked with finding and nurturing undiscovered singing talent, but unlike American Idol or X Factor, The Voice had a unique twist: blind auditions. During these auditions, the coaches couldn't see the singers and had to base their decisions solely on what they heard. It was a bold concept, but at the time it seemed a little far-fetched to both Shelton and Levine. In an interview with People, Shelton shared the story of how he and Levine reacted when they first learned about the concept of the show. "When Adam and I got the call to be on The Voice, we thought it was a joke. We sat down with the producers, and they explained this whole idea of blind auditions, and we both looked at each other like, this is pretty ridiculous. It just seems so out there." The skepticism wasn't just about the blind auditions. For 2 musicians who had spent years in the industry, it felt odd to them that a TV show could truly help someone launch a successful career. Levine, the lead singer of Maroon 5, and Shelton, a country music star, were used to the traditional methods of discovering and growing artists through record labels, live performances, and radio play. The idea of sitting in big red chairs and listening to people sing from behind them seemed almost too gimmicky for either of them to take seriously at first. The beginning of a rivalry and a friendship, what neither Shelton nor Levine realized at the time was that their initial skepticism would soon evolve into one of the most entertaining and enduring aspects of The Voice: their friendly rivalry. Over the course of the show's many seasons, the two developed a brotherly dynamic, constantly teasing and ribbing each other on screen. Their playful banter became a fan-favorite feature of the show and added to its appeal, making them both not just coaches but entertainment personalities in their own right. Shelton and Levine's chemistry was one of the reasons The Voice stood out in the competitive world of reality singing shows. While the talent and performances were always the focal points, the dynamic among the coaches created a different kind of draw for viewers. Fans tuned in not just to see who would advance in the competition, but also to watch the hilarious interactions between Shelton and Levine. From snarky comments to over-the-top antics, their rivalry was an integral part of the show's DNA. Levine left the show after 16 seasons, but during his time as a coach, He and Shelton developed a genuine friendship behind the scenes, even if their public persona suggested otherwise. In interviews, both stars have often said that their playful bickering was always in good fun, and that their respect for each other as musicians and individuals ran deep. Shelton once commented, "It's funny because we'll go at each other's throats on the show, but after the cameras stop rolling, we're still buddies. We'll go have a beer and laugh about it." I think that's what made it work. We didn't take ourselves too seriously. The impact of The Voice on Shelton and Levine, despite their early doubts, both Shelton and Levine benefited greatly from their time on The Voice. For Shelton, the show expanded his audience far beyond the country music world. He went from being a well-known country artist to a household name across America, thanks in large part to the exposure the show provided. His laid-back charm, quick wit, and undeniable talent made him a favorite among fans, and he went on to become the longest-tenured coach on the show. Levine also saw his popularity rise during his time on The Voice. Maroon 5 was already an internationally successful band, but Levine's presence on the show introduced him to a new demographic of viewers who may not have been familiar with his music before. His quick humor and ability to go toe-to-toe with Shelton in their on-screen feuds endeared him to fans who tuned in week after week to see what the duo would do next. Both men have acknowledged how much the show changed their careers. In an interview with Billboard, Levine said, "It's crazy to think about how much The Voice changed everything for me. I was already in a great place with Maroon 5, but being on TV in front of millions of people every week, it's a different kind of exposure. It's something he'll always be grateful for." Shelton echoed similar sentiments, saying, "I'm a country guy at heart, but being on The Voice opened doors I never thought possible. I've been able to connect with so many people, not just through my music, but through the show. And I think it's safe to say Adam and I had a pretty good time along the way, even if we didn't always admit it." The legacy of The Voice more than a decade after its debut, The Voice continues to thrive, with its unique format, talented contestants, and ever-changing panel of celebrity coaches. While Levine has since moved on from the show, Shelton remained a consistent presence until his final season in 2023, solidifying his status as the face of The Voice. For many fans, the show simply wouldn't be the same without Shelton's humor, charm, and undeniable coaching prowess. Looking back, it's clear that Shelton and Levine's initial skepticism about The Voice was short-lived. What started as a ridiculous concept in their eyes turned into a juggernaut in the world of reality TV, shaping the landscape of music competition shows and producing successful artists like Cassidy Pope, Danielle Bradbury, and Jordan Smith. Shelton concluded in a recent interview, "I'll admit, I didn't see it coming. Adam and I both thought this was a crazy idea, and we weren't sure if it would work. But here we are years later, and The Voice has been one of the best things to ever happen to me." Sometimes the most ridiculous ideas turn out to be the best ones. As the show continues to evolve, one thing remains certain. The impact of Blake Shelton and Adam Levine's time on The Voice will be remembered for years to come, not just for the talented artists they helped discover, but for the unforgettable friendship and rivalry that made the show so special. Not just for the talented artists they helped discover, but for the unforgettable friendship and rivalry that made the show so special.